smile, receive the love that your brothers and your sisters are pouring out to you. Pour it out to them.
I'll get that.
Thank you, Music Ministry, for your time. And thank you, Sister Jennifer, for reminding us that everything is important. It's easy for us to forget that. Everything is important. Scripture says, be not weary in well-doing, because in due season you will reap if you faint not. I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but you know me. You reminded me many years ago when I was an actor in New York, my agent finally landed me a role, not just walk-ons and under fives and that kind of thing. It was a reoccurring role on Kojak, which was shooting in New York at the time, Philly's Bravo. I was so happy. I felt like this is it, finally made it. What an opportunity. On the first day of shooting, I left my apartment early so I could get on set on time. And something happened when I got off the subway. Once I got off the subway, I had about 8.5 more blocks to go to get on set. And there was a woman that I almost tripped over when I came up the platform and out of the subway. And so I almost tripped over her legs. She was sitting on the ground. And when I turned to apologize for my foot having hit her foot, I noticed that she was sitting there and she had a pail there asking for donations. And her hands were gnarled like this. She had no use of her hands. I remember that I was compelled to stop. I squatted down and I started talking to this woman. All I was aware of was looking into her eyes, her looking into mine, and I just knew God sent me here to be in her life and sent her here to be in my life. I just started ministering to her. Even though I was an actor in New York, my dad had already trained me as a minister, so while I was an actor, I was finishing my final part of becoming ordained. And in that moment, I forgot I was an actor. I only remembered that I was a minister. And so I just ministered to her, and I was aware of light shining all around us. I don't know how long I was with that woman, but I know that at some point it dawned on me, oh my God, I'm supposed to be on set for Kojak. I have a reoccurring role. This is why I came to New York. This is what I dreamed of. I apologized to her for leaving so abruptly in the moment, and I got up and I took off running. And when I got on set, I was 8 minutes late. In that 8 minutes, they had replaced me. The other guy who looked kind of like me, same age, same type, he was showing up while I was showing up. My agent was so angry. Felt like all the work he had done for me was all for naught. I was so angry at me. I couldn't believe that I had blown such a big deal thing in my life. And I wondered if I would ever get the chance again. And the deal is I never did get a chance again to be in a reoccurring role on any show that was shooting in New York. Although I went up for many a thing, I never got it. So in my mind, I had lived a huge mistake. I had sabotaged myself. I didn't know what had compelled me to spend so much time with that woman, because there are people all over New York who can't walk, who can't see, who can't talk, and whose hands and feet are mangled. I tried to make myself feel wrong for doing it, but I couldn't quite succeed. I did feel wrong for not showing up on time, but I couldn't make myself feel wrong for being locked in and ministering to this woman. Once again, never got any big roles, did a lot of commercials, did a lot of under fives, went up for a couple of big roles, didn't get them. So many people in New York looking just like me, only prettier. I kind of forgot about that for years. In New York, because I didn't become a big actor, my life was open to be included in a really high-powered, amazing music opportunity. My acting teacher at Weiss Barron, they teach you how to transfer stage acting into television acting, so you're not acting so big, it's all very subtle. And when I graduated from Weiss Barron about a year after this, they said, go hang out at Ted Hooks Backstage. That's the big place. That's where all the casting agents are and the actors and all the celebrities hang out there. I went to hang out there and I heard a guy singing when I was on my way out the door. And I stopped in my tracks and went to the maitre d', who is this? And he went, that's Johnny Earl. He's our celebrity entertainer. Where is he at? He's in the celebrity room. Can anybody go into the celebrity room? If you're willing to pay 3 times the amount for your drinks and your food, you're welcome to go into the celebrity room. I went into the celebrity room and my entire life changed because I heard a voice that I thought I remembered from before I was even born. And I said to myself, I will go anywhere to hear that guy sing. And in a short while, he asked me to actually sing with him. So suddenly this guy who went to New York to be an actor was, by a gift from out of nowhere, suddenly a part of an act that was really big time. We sang for people like Elizabeth Taylor and Shirley MacLaine and Ben Vereen and all the people that gathered there. Elizabeth Taylor had a show right next door called Little Foxes that she was doing. So all of her friends wanted Johnny to come to their hotels and their apartments to sing for them, and he was always too busy. No, thank you. And so I was stunned that he wasn't too busy to want me to sing with him. After a couple of years of working with Johnny in entertainment and some of the best cabaret houses in New York and getting a big reputation there, Johnny decided that he wanted to sing for God. I grew up singing for God. I wanted show business. He wanted show business. He wanted God. I was mad at myself for ever turning him on to God. He wants to leave show business for God. At this point, we were living in Florida, and we were working as the top entertainers at the Diplomat Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel there. They paid us in cash. It was all kind of mafia type-ish energy. So every night, every week, every Friday, they would put $1,200 into Johnny's hands and they would put $800 into mine. This is back when $800 was like maybe $2,000 is now, just for singing. And every time somebody requested you to do New York, New York, and you simply sang New York, New York, people walked up and put $100 bills into our tip jar. We had it made in the shade as far as I was concerned. But then he said to me one day, I'm tired of show business. Too much temptation. I only want us to work for God. Well, at that time we worked for God by singing 2 songs and developing a choir for Unity on the Bay. Alan Stanley was our minister. He paid us each a nice, crisp $50 bill every Sunday. Johnny informed me one day, I've quit our job at the Diplomat. We weren't savers. We were constantly buying diamonds and gold for my mom and my sisters and everybody else. We were traveling all over, wasting money everywhere we went. So when Johnny quit our job at the Diplomat, it meant we were going to live off of $100 a week. I watched everything go. I watched our 4-bedroom apartment go downgraded into a 2-bedroom. After a few months, the 2-bedroom was gone, and we downgraded to a bedroom, 1 bedroom. The furniture that we had been rented by the show that I went down there to do, because not only were we doing The Diplomat, I was in a musical. And the musical moved to Texas. And when they moved to Texas, the car they rented for us got taken away, and all of our furniture got taken away. At some point, we're living in a little studio apartment on South Beach, before South Beach got renovated. You should have seen it. It was, nobody wanted to live on South Beach at this time. You had to be on the verge of poverty ridden to live there. And we lived there. In a little cinder block, 2-room spot with no furniture and no car. We walked from where we lived across 2 causeways so that we could get our food in Little Jamaica. Because in Little Jamaica, you could get twice as much food as you could anywhere else. I was so angry. Johnny Earl was so filled with faith. Carlos, you watch. One day God's going to be paying us more than they paid us in show business. Yeah, right. I turned him on to God. And I was so mad about it, because it was his faith in God that allowed him to tell the people at the Diplomat that we were done. So there we are walking around. Reverend Stanley gave us, you know, they had chairs, not plush ones like this, but the old-fashioned kind of chairs. He gave us 4 chairs that we carried on a bus in 2 trips so that we could have somewhere to sit. I went and got 6 cinder blocks and 3 pieces of wood and built us a bookshelf for my Unity books, because I was studying with Reverend Stanley. We were broke. I was mad. One day, Reverend Stanley came to us and said, the international conference for the Unity churches is going to be taking place here this year. I would like the 2 of you to sing for this event. I would like you to sing 3 or 4 songs on your own and gather together some other people who want to sing. Give us a choir. We did that. Immediately when the conference was over, the first program where we sang, we got swamped by Unity ministers from all over the world, begging us to come and give concerts and workshops in their churches. Within about 4 months, Johnny proved to have been right. We were making more money than we made in show business without the smoke-filled atmosphere and without watching people get drunk and stagger over to put a $100 bill into our bucket for singing One More Time, New York, New York. I was stunned. We were able to get out of that little cinder block place in South Beach and get a 2-bedroom. We were able to go and get furniture, and we were able to get a car. I didn't know that God could get any better until the following year when they did another conference in Miami. We were swamped after we sang. The line was so long. People were coming through the line. At some point, a woman who looked a bit familiar from somewhere came to me in the line and said nothing. She just stared in my eyes, and I stared in her eyes, and I went, "Where do I know you from?" And she said, "You almost tripped over me 4 years ago outside of a subway in New York City.
Oh my God.
You gave me something nobody had given me in so long I forgot what it was like. You gave me your full attention. Your full attention." It dawned on me that she must be the woman with the gnarled hands. I didn't want to glance down. I just kept looking in her eyes. She said, "You went rushing off. I think you had something to do with Kojak happening?" I said, "Yeah, I had a part on Kojak." "How did it go?" I actually didn't get it. I showed up late. She said, "There's something you should know." I had to go one full block before making my right turn. She said, "I want you to know something. Before you made your right turn, heat came over my body, from the crown of my head into my heart. Then it left my heart and poured down my arms. It left my arms and poured into my hands. How could you have known?" And she lifted her hands, ungnarled and moving and beautiful. How could you have known what you stopping and giving me your full attention would do for me? She said, "My hands straightened out that day and have been straight ever since. By now we have a crowd around us and people are listening to her testimony. And I am crying like a baby. And she is going, hallelujah, hallelujah." When you were talking about everything is important, you flashed me back to that woman and that testimony. She kept going to Unity on the Bay for the rest of the years that I was there, and that got talked about at pretty much every conference and every workshop and every retreat they ever gave. How could you have known? This is what I believe. I believe that when we get to heaven, when we get out of these bodies and we go to the land of light, that each and every one of us is going to have somebody, a line of people, stepping up to us, looking into our eyes, saying, "How could you have known? How could you have known that what you gave me healed me? Either physically, emotionally, mentally. How could we have known every act of kindness has a rippling effect that is so powerful?" I experienced one other miracle of the same sort when Johnny and I were doing a concert in, it was some little town outside of Seattle. I can't remember the name of the town. While we were doing our concert, we were singing a song called, God, what's the name of that song? "Praise to the One Who Created Me." One of my favorite songs that I ever wrote with Johnny. While we were singing, I got ticked off. Because while we were singing, some hubbub started happening over here, and people started getting up, and people were like going around, and they were being kind of loud, and I thought they were being disrespectful. Until one guy, who also was a guy who had no use of his left hand, because it got caught in some tractor when he was a boy, was standing over there with his hands straightened. Now, I'm Reverend Carlos Anderson on a stage singing a song, ticked off because that dude over there is interrupting my song. Creating a scene over there while I'm trying to minister my song. Let me tell you what that taught me. It taught me, thank God, God is bigger than I am. Thank God that even when I'm ticked off, Reverend Anderson, Reverend Carlos on a stage ministering a song, ticked off because somebody is disturbing me. How could I have known it was God? How could I have known what God was doing over there? I grew up in a Pentecostal church where I saw miracles on a pretty regular basis. It was a colored Pentecostal church. And most of the respectful, and highly respected colored men at this church had holes in their bottoms of their shoes. And they would put newspaper or brown paper bags in so the rain wouldn't get into the holes of their shoes. And they wore ties so long that they were frayed everywhere. And the little suit jacket that they got at the Goodwill had already been frayed when the person took it to Goodwill. And now 8 years later, it was extra frayed with these ministers and these bishops wearing these clothes. They didn't have much of anything, so they had hardly no distractions. They had no money to go out to dinner or go to the movies. Many of them had no money to have a television. They didn't have much of anything but Jesus. And so therefore, their full attention was on the promises of Jesus. And if Jesus said, you can touch somebody and they can go from blind to sight, they believed it. And let's face it, we all know by now through scientific evidence, if you believe it, you can achieve it. So I saw miracles. I thought that they had to be in the frame of holiness until I had that thing where I was ticked off on stage. And then I realized that God's energy and God's power can override my mess. It can override your mess. We don't have to wait to get holy to get free. That's what I talked about last week in New York. Last week in New York, we had about 900 people. There are about 850 in the congregation, and about 50 of us doing the ministry. We did a homecoming thing, and people actually came home, and it was remarkable, a remarkable service. And we are preaching on Reverend Sean Moniger, who some of you know. He came up with an idea that this year in New York we were going to be doing the parables. So we didn't know that we were going to have an Easter Sunday, and my pre-chosen parable was the pearl of great price. And I'm like, okay, it's Easter. How am I going to preach the pearl of great price and turn that into an Easter message? I did. And I'll share a bit of that with you later, when I'm actually supposed to be talking. It was my intention today. I told you, last time I saw you, I was just so glad I had teeth in my mouth. And today I'm glad I got teeth in my mouth still.
Praise God.
And I have not yet heard whether I'm going to get my Medicare and Mass Health back. And surprising to me, I don't have any bit of worry, doubt, or fear. I'm going to get it back, or I'm going to go homeopathic. I told you that last week, right? I'm on 3 different medications. I've already gotten a book and looked up. If they don't give me my high blood pressure medicine, I'm going to be drinking a lot of cranberry juice, and I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to be doing that. So I have no worries or any fears about that. It's kind of surprising to me that I don't have any. I'm just blessed. I keep telling Tim, I'm too doggone happy to be sad. I'm just too happy to be sad. And I'm too secure to be afraid. I can't make myself be afraid because I'm too secure. Because I trust God implicitly. Because God has brought me out of darkness and into the marvelous light more times than I can even count. I really look forward to sharing with you the truth that you are the pearl of great price, and there's nothing to wait for. The kingdom, queendom, moredom, alldom of God is not a coming attraction. It's the current event. Let us all speak the 5 principles collectively together. And could you stand?